Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Singapore Injustice Podcast. I'm one of the co hosts, Kush, and this is Max, and today we're going to be taking a brief look into some of the injustices in Singapore for this series.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final edition of the Singapore Injustice Podcast. This will be the final episode indefinitely, but there will obviously be chances of having more episodes in later dates. Today, we're going to be discussing the police brutality incident in Singapore recently. There have been a lot of allegations of police brutality, and I'd like to personally take a look into this situation because there's obviously a lot of sides involved and there are a lot of perspectives. And personally, I believe that I have varying perspectives on this issue. I have a lot of opinions, and I actually have a bit of credibility on this situation because I was at Clarke Quay when the incident actually happened. So for those of you who don't really know what happened, I'll have a brief look into I'll give a brief look into what actually happened. So starting off, there was a bit of a brawl in Clarke Quay a few months ago from this date. It was in February, and there was a bit of a brawl in Clarke Quay which turned into a fight, and there was a lot of people there, so police were involved immediately. And because of this, I think the police were alerted to fighting, and it was they were alerted to something very extreme, but when the police actually arrived, it wasn't that big of a deal. I was actually there to see it happen, and it had died down by then, but the police managed to catch two international school students who were still fighting at that time. So firstly, one of them was actually fighting another man, whereas the second one that was arrested was trying to stop the fight, but it seemed as though he was also trying to fight it. And the police were brought in. There was a lot of questioning around the police's methods to the arrest because they used a baton and hit one of the men several times on the head while he was on the ground, and this was definitely looked down upon in social media. Like Instagram accounts such as Wake Up Singapore were looking at the incident and were uploading videos calling the police into question, as in why would they keep hitting the man when he was already down. The police's response was that there was a lot of danger in the situation and that he was fighting back. That was the main concern the police provided in their statement. But when people looked at the video, it seemed like he was already on the ground, unmoving, unfaltering. So this is where the controversy arose. And personally, I think that both sides have very valid points because the man was very dangerous in that situation, and he was arguing and he was fighting prior to the scenario, so the police had to take precaution. But also, the police did not have to hit the man as they did, and that was sort of dangerous from the police side as well, because I'm sure many of you seen the video. The man was heavily bleeding by the time the police arrested him. And as I've said before, this was brought into question by a lot of Instagram accounts like Wake Up Singapore, SG Follows All, and such. And the public response was also varying. On Facebook, when the police responded, people applauded the police for responding quickly and efficiently, whereas on Instagram, people were very skeptical of the police's response and said this is a case of police brutality. And of course, seeing last year's George Floyd concerns, police brutality is still fresh in everyone's mind, and they're calling a lot of things that recently. In my humble opinion, I believe that the police did have the right to arrest the man, and the measures they took were only taken because of the man being dangerous beforehand. So as it wasn't completely dangerous what the police were doing, and it did not affect the man where it put him in a critical condition, I think the police had the right to take the necessary measures to arrest him, even if it caused some harm to him. When I was seeing the incident, my first reaction was to separate myself from the fight scene because I did not want to be involved, and a lot of my friends there were very responsible in the scenario, and we just distanced ourselves from the fighters. We weren't there when the police came, but we saw the police leaving, and there was a lot of police presence, and Clark Key was almost shut down at that point. And I think this scenario is just a look into how people have to be very careful when they're outside, and they shouldn't be getting into fights, because even if it's just between friends or whatever the reason may be, it looks very, very scary to the public eye. Now I will read out the actual incident that happened, and I'll give you a look into what the Straits Times has published on the matter. So the Straits Times is definitely a very reliable source. This is what a lot of Singaporeans use for their daily news. So according to the Straits Times, there was an incident that occurred in Clark Key many times. It's not the first time that it happened, and I'm going to be reading something that happened on December 20th, 2020. 5 men aged between 21 and 40 were arrested after a rioting incident in Clark Key on Saturday night that involved a deadly weapon. The brawlers had fled the scene, and basically the police were able to identify everyone involved and arrest them and take all the injured to the general hospital, which is a really good thing. And this just shows how common it is for these type of things to happen at Clark Key. It just shows that it's not the police's issue, but it's actually the people there that actually causes everything that happens. All the intruders were caught, and the police is taking them into questioning. This isn't just the first case, there's also many other cases. We see an article on February 14th, which is the one where I was at. We see another one in November 19th, and several others in the past year, which just shows yet again that it's not the police, but it's actually the perpetrators. It's actually the location, Clark Key, where everyone's always drunk, which causes the issues, and the police has to respond because they have to protect the civilians, so they have to take measures to ensure that no one is in danger, and they can't be blamed, and they shouldn't be blamed for that. So as these situations are very, very common, it's easy to get carried away after seeing just one of these and blame the police or blame the perpetrators. But we have to consider everything, and considering the fact that there was a lot of violence that day, it's not a case of police brutality. I think people are getting carried away in Singapore because Singapore is much better off than the places where actual police brutality exists, like the US. And we should be looking at George Floyd and Breonna, I want to say Breonna Taylor. And we should be calling those police brutality cases, but not this one. People shouldn't be getting carried away on social media, blaming one person, blaming the other, and they should keep an open mind and respect the fact that Singapore is a really, really nice country, and it shouldn't be taken care of. It shouldn't be considered a place of police brutality. So that was the first part of the podcast, the finale podcast, and want to offer a special bonus at the end as a thank you for everyone who's been here since the beginning. There was a bit of a break in between, and to explain that, it was because our school wanted to send it off to the Week at a Glance committee, and we wanted to get more viewership, but some of the things we talked about are controversial, and I don't think the school wants to align itself with these controversial views, which is why we didn't get that, and we were just waiting on that procedure for almost 4 months now, and since we couldn't get it, we just got an email back saying we couldn't get it, so we just uploaded all our content that we have right now, which is why you'll see 3 episodes all up on the same day, and it's a bit difficult to end on that note, but because of that, we're offering a bonus at the end, and we're going to be taking a look back at the migrant workers that we looked at in episode 1. So this is a great way to end. We're going to be ending the way we started, and actually I was really touched by the migrant worker article, so I actually went and volunteered at the worker dormitories over the past few weeks over the few weeks after that episode aired, and I felt really touched. We were donating COVID products, and we were shipping them to the dormitories, and it was a really enriching experience where I could actually see I was actually able to actually deliver it to the migrant workers that needed them themselves. It was really a great experience. We went to the 2 dormitories, and I have to say, once you get there, it's almost like its own country. There's no condos, there's no buildings, it's just a lot of these hostile type situations, and like a lot of these workers haven't seen the outside world for months on end because of these COVID restrictions, and because how the COVID just went crazy in those situations. So it was really nice to go into those neighborhoods, and I was able to see that let me see the smile on their faces actually, and I was also able to see that the migrant workers were some of them were cycling around their neighborhood, and even though they're in lockdown, a lot of these neighborhoods are exclusively just migrant workers, which is why they're allowed to do that. And we also have some CAS opportunities, of course, for people that are interested in volunteering at the dormitories like I am. So you can contact me, you can email me. If you're from the school, you definitely already have my email address. Just search my name up, Kush Tumala, in the search bar, and you'll see my email pop up, and I can offer you the guidance to work in that worker dormitories. So you can work for up to 1.5 hours, but I was really touched that day, so I worked a lot longer. I went after school, and I worked for 4 hours. Then on another occasion I worked for 2, and then another I worked for 3 hours. So in total around 10 hours of service for these migrant workers, but really it's not that hard a job, and it doesn't actually seem that long. I was actually surprised how fast time went by as I was volunteering, so I really suggest people to volunteer as well. Now my partner Max, I also know, is taking part in some of these volunteering scenarios as well. he's been touched more by the digital literacy end. And in school, I've seen him talking about digital literacy to a lot of people for these service and CAS opportunities. And he's really been telling a lot of people about opportunities that they can pursue as well. And as we approach the 15-minute mark, this will be our finale. This is our final episode. Thank you everyone who's made it this far and listened to all of our episodes. We didn't want to make the final one as long as the other ones because it's the final and we just want to end the series here. We talked about a lot this episode, and because Max wasn't able to make it to this episode, I just went through it and I just gave you a little bit of insight into what goes on in my head. And which is also why it's a bit shorter of an episode, because I know not everyone wants to listen to one person drone on for that long without having any other opinion, because I know when I'm listening to podcasts, it's really frustrating when it's just several people and they don't bring up the point that you want them to bring up. Like, you just want to sit at that table and tell them something and see their reaction to that. And I think that's also the reason why I love making podcasts so much. And it was just, this entire CAS project was just a great opportunity to take what I really enjoyed and help the community like that. I strongly encourage everyone to also help out the community and do it in a way you really enjoy it. There's a lot of different ways you could do. Let's say you're a pianist, you could create a fundraiser for a charity of your choice with your piano playing. There's so many options you can do, and CAS it's not a restriction. I see it more as like doors that open me for opportunities, because I never would have known how this migrant worker scenario was something I had a passion for unless I started this project. And CAS has really opened my eyes to the world, and it's allowed me to pursue things that I never thought I would actually pursue. And you might be thinking, well, once this CAS project is over, you're probably not going to touch migrant workers ever again. That's actually not true. I've been signing up to my different migrant worker programs. Even though my CAS project has ended, I see it more than just a school commitment. I see it as something I want to pursue my career in. I want to be part of volunteering service as I grow older. I want to continue volunteering even if I have another job, even if I have kids. I don't know, in the future, anything's possible. So we're going to end it off there with a little bit of a reflection. Thank you everybody for listening, and stay safe out there. COVID is still a thing, and we really hope that what we've done this season of the Singaporean Justice podcast has really touched some of you, and I hope you've looked at our CAS opportunities in each video and used them as one of your own, because I know a lot of people have difficulty doing CAS projects, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know what they're passionate in. And whatever me and Max Max and I bring to the table is something we're both really, really passionate in. And we really hope some of you could agree with what we do and just help us and help the community by volunteering. Thank you so much, everybody. This is the final episode. This is Kush and Max signing off. Thank you.